Elmbridge has not done a literary competition before. And when the River House Barn were putting together their Eat Art project, Loretta, who's the director of the R.C. Sheriff Trust, and I said, wouldn't it be good if we did a competition with some literary competition with something to do with food? So we came up with the idea, that's Elmbridge Borough Council. To introduce myself, I'm Mags, and I'm the Arts Development Officer. And so we opened up to 4 sets of age categories, a cook up a story literature competition, and we received 86 entries. So that is only for the first year. So if next year it doubles, that would be absolutely amazing. We had 3 lovely judges who are all authors, Bridget Jones, Sylvia Green, and Patricia Pierce, and they judged all the categories. Now this evening you will hear the winners, the runners-up, and the best of the rest. And they're all varied, they're all very entertaining, and we know you're going to have a really special evening. Without any further ado, we will continue with this evening's performance, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Recipe for a Poem by Avril Jesse. An ounce of inspiration, a cupful of emotion, a dash of imagination, and a smattering of words. Season these with metaphors, hyperbole and pace. Pepper with punctuation, a time, a thought, a place. Mix them up with rhythm, pat them down with mood. Toss around in grammar, stir the poet's food. Moisten with some memories, spice up with some fear. Something to rhyme with mountain time, add onomatopoeia. Make it bitter or make it sweet, chop into verse or leave complete. Alliteration according to taste, with a helping of verbs to mould and baste. Pop in a meter and bring to the boil, simmer the senses, churn in turmoil. Skim off the angst, indignation and rage. Allow to cool and savour the page. Serve with a dressing of joy or sorrow, a twist of philosophy with hope for the morrow. Lift the spirit, search the soul, but always remember to wash up the bowl.
Sing a Song of Apples by Wendy Wilson. Apples ripening on the trees, green and red and yellow. Wind falls on the grass below, bruised but sweet and mellow. Apples in the orchard, hundreds there and more. Apples in the garden and in the superstore. Sing a song of apples, the nicest fruit of all. Apples big and rosy, apples round and small. Apples in the fruit bowl, polished till they gleam. When the firelight flickers, how they wink and beam. Apples in the kitchen, shrivelling in their skins, wondering why I've fetched my biggest baking tin. Sing a song of apples, the nicest fruit of all. Apples big and rosy, apples round and small. Apples in an apple pie, baked a golden brown. Apples in a dumpling with a sugared crown. Apples in Eve's pudding, such a tempting treat. So many ways to cook them, and all glorious to eat. Sing a song of apples, the nicest fruit of all. Apples big and rosy, apples round and small.
Cabbage by Geoffrey Grant. It sits there wrinkled, like a walnut shriveled, dark green, like an unwanted sock, like the ears of Mr. Spock. Half submerged, like the tip of an iceberg, its wrinkled surface rises out of bubbling water, repulsive, sickening, loathsome. A stinking stench, it rises from the boiling pan like a vicious nightmare. Cabbage,
Mediterranean Idyll by Maggie Pomeroy. Weathered veranda with a pelmet of vine leaves, sun blazing from a cerulean sky, table clad with a Provençal cloth, zingy lemon and Bristol blue. Glasses frosted with condensation, Rosé de Provence, of course. Rough earthenware dish of roasted tomatoes, spiced with garlic and anchovies, dressed with balsamic vinegar and olive oil, mopped up with fresh baked baguettes. Charcuterie, pâté de campagne, saucisson, jambes persillées. Brie, ripening gently in the sun. Roquefort for those with braver taste buds. Terrine of summer fruits set in a jelly of sparkling cava, cream and meringues for gluttony, chocolate cake with prunes soaked in armagnac. All my favourite foods and people, a simple feast enjoyed together, warmth and friendship celebrated. But no cicadas buzz in the background, only the distant rattle of trains, Alton via Woking and Walton to Wimbledon.
Olive by Ronald Siegel. An olive on top of a tree, looking down saw a lone anchovy. If you haven't yet mated and are feeling frustrated, why then, cried the olive, stuff me.
A Woman's Needs by Leslie Wayman. On Sunday mornings, Fergus baked bread. Sometimes a cottage loaf, sometimes rolls, but always bread and always made with precision and care. Edith watched him, either from the ironing board or the conservatory while watering the plants. The bread would be wonderful, she knew. The taste so fresh and soothing, the texture changing from crisp crust to warm, doughy middle, and the smell, oh, that fabulous aroma. All this signified the Sunday ritual in the Morgan household. Edith realised many years ago that the Sunday bread-making had replaced the Sunday love-making. They once enjoyed, and as much as the taste of creamy butter on hot bread pleased her, it was no substitute for her husband's touch. She missed him, and she wondered why their intimacy had been replaced with a different type of comfort. When did it happen? Fergus was a practical man, loving and honest, but recently he felt that life was passing him by. He was happy enough. Well, maybe content was a more fitting description than happy. Something was missing. Spontaneity. That's what it was. He could predict exactly what would happen each weekend. Friday night they would go out for a meal, sometimes with friends, and sometimes just the two of them. Saturday, one or other of the girls would pop in, sometimes both together, and all his women would bustle and natter in a powwow like old times before the girls left home. Fergus's job was to be there when fatherly advice was required, and be scarce when it wasn't. One of those looks would tell him if he'd got it wrong. And Sunday, well, Sunday was bread-making day. Edith would fiddle around doing her bits and pieces, and Fergus would create a mouth-watering delight for her to say, "Thank you for looking after him. Thank you for being there." He loved the routine, the smell, the texture, the taste, the whole journey from start to finish. But sometimes he missed Edith. Silly, he thought. His wife was right there with him, smiling, encouraging, happy. Fergus thought himself a lucky man. Good health, good job, a loving family, and nearly 30 years of marriage. Perfect. But was it? Edith pressed another shirt, taking particular care with the collar. She loved to see a perfect collar, especially on a white shirt. She thought of Fergus closing the top button and covering the little wisps of chest hair that grew there. She watched him as he kneaded the dough, his hands, the muscles on his lower arms. One thing was certain, She would love this man forever. He caught her gaze, smiled a smile that crinkled the corner of his eyes, and almost shyly looked back downwards. What was he thinking? Fergus rolled the dough and folded it in from each side, turned it 45 degrees, rolled and folded it again. The smoothness reminded him of Edith's skin, so he touched it some more. Edith was doing that thing with his shirt collar that she always did. He wasn't sure what it was, but it made him feel really loved. She looked up and for a moment caught his eye. He wanted to leave the dough and take her in his arms, but no, I wonder if... He thought, no, she's busy. He smiled and resumed the bread making. Sundays, relaxing Sundays, how he loved them. The next Friday, when Fergus got home from work, Edith had made a picnic. "What's this?" he said, sensing an almost girlishness in his wife. "Are all the restaurants fully booked?" "I've no idea," she replied. "It's a lovely evening, so I thought we could eat al fresco for a change. You know, like we used to sometimes. What do you fancy, Hilltop or Riverside? If it's Hilltop, you're carrying the bag." "Riverside it is, then. I'll just go and get changed." What a fantastic surprise, he thought. Saturday went much as usual, other than both girls took Edith out shopping in the morning, and when they came back they were in a girly huddle for some time. Fergus felt his presence was not required, so he watched golf on TV. There was something going on, but he didn't know quite what. Sunday morning broke with blue skies and tiny white clouds. Fergus pulled back the curtains and breathed in the summer view. Edith was snuggled under the duvet, hair crumpled on her pillow, not asleep, but just snoozing, as she would put it. "It's another lovely day," Fergus said, sitting on the bed. "Draw the curtains for a little while, love," Edith said blearily. "And miss the sunshine? Why?" He sniffed a little, and then again. "What's that smell?" "I thought you would recognize it easily," she smiled. He looked a little confused and sniffed again. "It's bread, isn't it? But how?" "Bread maker," she replied, smiling cheekily. "Delicious hot bread in, let me see." She glanced at the clock radio. "In about 25 minutes. Can you think of anything to do until then?" She pulled back his side of the duvet. "But what about your stuff? You know, the stuff you do on a Sunday." "Nothing that can't wait." Fergus looked at Edith and smiled. "Sorry, sunshine," he addressed the window. "You'll have to wait a while too," and drew the curtains.